Friends, good evening. Today we venture into a tale seldom told, though written about at length in its time. The story of a boy, styled a Şehzade, an Ottoman prince, a son of the Sultan and one of the heirs to the throne, who was kidnapped and made a priest. Yes, you heard that correctly. A lad said to be the son of an Ottoman sultan, schooled by Christians, lecturing in churches. This is not a fireside myth, nor a rumour to be waved away. There are traces in the sources. Quick housekeeping, we're launching a new series. Subscribe and tap the bell so the next episode finds you, rather than the other way round. The Ottoman story, like any great dynasty, knew its dark weather. One such squall was the reign of Murad IV. The Janissaries had grown too bold. The state seemed to be trundling downhill and picking up speed. Murad tried to stop the slide with emergency measures, some so severe they grazed tyranny. When he died young, on the 8th of February 1640, he left a precarious calm. Fear on one side, order on the other. Murad's worst headache was not foreign enemies, but his own grandees. Pashas told him, almost to his face, if not you, then your brothers. We can replace you. The old practice of fratricide had given way to ekber-i erşed, the rule that the eldest suitable male should inherit. It sounded humane. In practice, it gave the Pashas a new bargaining chip. More than once, when Murad left to campaign, whispers raced through the capital that he was dead, and his brother Kösem was pushed toward the throne. When Murad returned, very much alive, heads rolled. He was severe, yes, but the times had chiseled him that way. Pressure drove Murad to the bleakest decisions about his brothers. The historian Hammer says he signed their death warrants with downcast eyes. One brother alone escaped, and he soon stepped onto the stage. There was another worry. Murad had no son. If the Sultan died, would the state unravel? In the storm, the spared brother, Ibrahim, ascended. Hammer, with a sniff, calls him Mad Ibrahim. Ottoman writers such as Peçevi are more careful. They describe brutal headaches, spells of confusion, odd behaviour. Hammer sneers that he tied a woman's turban about his head. The likely truth is simpler and sadder. Compression eased the pain. In modern terms, it was a medical matter rather than a moral failing. Now the crux, an heir. Ibrahim had no son. The formidable Valide Kösem sent word through the harem. Find a worthy girl. Present her to His Majesty. Let Providence grant a boy. In these months, the harem-R's demand for girls was so brisk that prices in the slave bazaar soared, at times trebling in a matter of weeks. Yet, despite the stream of women introduced to Ibrahim, he showed little appetite for those presented to him. Enter Sümbül Ağa, chief of the harem-R's, the senior officer overseeing the palace women's quarters. At the slave market, he spots a beauty he cannot forget. He pays 420 gold coins, as Reşat Ekrem Koçu delights to note, brings her to the palace and presents her to the Sultan. Ibrahim approves. There is, however, a small complication. At first, nothing. No telltale swell, no whisper of it in the ledgers. Weeks passed and suspicion hardened. A month or two more, and there it was. Count the days and the arithmetic points outward, away from the palace. Whose child then? A former master, a trader at the market. Not Sümbül Ağa, do not think it. He was a eunuch, castrated for the post under traditional harem rules. The papers are silent, only corridors murmur. The dates will not wear the proud label of the Sultan's son. And so, mother and boy, Osman, were gently eased to the margins. Her name was Zafire, or Zarif, gentle, amiable, soft-spoken. Sümbül Ağa was a eunuch castrated for his office. Not a lover in the usual sense, and never a father. But he could be a guardian. Hearts remain intact. He could still feel, and he could still love. He protected Zafire and kept her in the quiet corners of the palace. Inevitably, Ibrahim noticed her again. Conversation blossomed. Meanwhile, another thread unfolded. Ibrahim's consort, Hatice Turhan, a much-admired beauty, gave birth to Mehmed. The timing is exquisite. Mehmed was born 3 to 5 months after Osman. Turhan was already pregnant when Zafire re-entered orbit. There was also a practical problem. Turhan's milk did not suffice. A wet nurse was needed, and none could be found. Zafire is lactating, someone said. And so Zafire nursed both babies, her own Osman and the Sultan's son Mehmed. Behind the phrase harem intrigue, we should note a simple maternal fact. 2 hungry infants and 1 woman with milk. Now for the notorious pool. By then, Ibrahim spent most of his time with Zafire and the boy, Osman. He loved them as if they were his own family. Because he had been nursed alongside the prince, he was treated as a milk brother. In Muslim tradition, milk siblings are counted as real siblings. With Ibrahim's open favour, people in the palace even called him Şehzade Osman. In Topkapı, between the Revan and Bağdat pavilions, a marble basin sits with a convenient ledge. The Sultan sits there, throne drawn up, playing with Osman. Turhan arrives in a fury and first lashes out at Zafire. Then, showing Mehmed in her arms, she turns to Ibrahim. "There is your baby. If you must fawn, fawn on him." Ibrahim, stung, sets Osman down, snatches Mehmed by the leg and flings him into the pool. The child somersaults in the air several times, strikes his head on the fountain stone and sinks. A quick-witted servant dives and hauls him up. Turhan clutches her boy and flees. It is a ghastly little tableau, and it shows Ibrahim's attachment to Osman as not merely fond, but dangerously unbalanced. By 1648, Ibrahim is deposed. On the throne sits Mehmed IV, Turhan's boy. Turhan restores order in the palace. Zafire no longer has a place. Sümbül Ağa resigns. Together they slip away and board a ship from Eminönü bound for Egypt. Through the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles into the blue fields of the Mediterranean. And there, on the horizon, the Knights of Malta. Ottoman sea power was not at its brightest. Maltese corsairs surrounded the ship. In the skirmish, the men fought and died, Sümbül Ağa among them. The women and children were taken. Zafire held Osman close. The crew had been whispering a grand story along the way. The boy is the Sultan's son. The nickname Şehzade had spread. In Malta, they were brought before the island's ruler, Grand Master Lascaris, who saw the politics at once. An Ottoman prince in our hands. Europe loves a pawn if it shines. Zafire died soon after. Osman was fatherless, then motherless, and finally alone. The Maltese baptised the boy, sent him to a clerical school, and lodged him in a monastery. From there the plan grew bolder, to fashion a Christian sultan, and, if fortune allowed, set him on the Ottoman throne. It was spectacular madness, reckless, incendiary, and to some in Europe, irresistible. They wrote to Istanbul with a smug flourish. "We have the Sultan's son. He has seen the light." The plan was obvious. To sow discord. Behold the true Osmanoğlu. Rally to him. Mehmed IV reigned from 1648 to 1688. 40 years nominally on the throne, with his mother Turhan Sultan steering the ship in the early years. As for Mehmed, the art of government held little charm. The hunt did. Think of a sultan who can be deposed or nearly while stalking stag in the forests of Edirne. The palace is seized. Messengers gallop out. "Come at once!" He rides back, mud on his boots. "What is it? You dragged me from the hunt. Majesty, we have overthrown you." "Have you? And? We shall seat another. Is that all?" "That is all." "Very well. Then I am going back to the hunt." He was not enraged at the loss of a crown, but at the loss of a day's sport. That was Mehmed. The quarry before the council, the forest before the state. Into such a court came the Maltese letters. "We have your brother, Ibrahim's son, Osman." The scribes checked the registers. No such prince. The dates did not fit. The palace books held no name. The reply was crisp. "He is not ours. Do as you please." The European glitter faded overnight. The youth who had been paraded in salons as a prince from the East became merely a ward, and then a nuisance. He languished in monastic corners, uncared for. In the monastery they called him the Ottoman priest. He died young. Consumption, they said. Even today, they say, a grave in Malta, somewhere in a churchyard, bears the memory of an Ottoman priest. A Dominican raised among knights. What then is the shape of this story? A prince kidnapped and forced into the cloth is a headline that snags the eye. But the body of the tale says something else. The princely claim collapses under the palace timeline. The father is unknown. A slave-born child was polished into a European lever. That is the tragedy. From Istanbul to Malta, a boy's life became a chess piece on other men's boards. That is our matter. Not well known, but it ought to be. Behind the label of madness lies a medical condition. Behind harem intrigue, the blunt necessity of a wet nurse. Behind the so-called prince card, a solitary orphan. Once widely written up, then quietly shelved. We dust it off and remember it. Even stripped of legend, it would pass for cinema without anyone crying exaggeration. We'll meet in the next chapter. Until then, look after yourselves and keep your curiosity splendidly well fed.